Some of the deepest pain you will ever feel won't come from enemies. It will come from people you once believed would never hurt you. It comes in silence. It comes in neglect. It comes in the way they choose to show you you don't really matter to them. And the sad part is you kept holding on, thinking they'll change, thinking maybe, just maybe, they didn't mean it that way. But let me tell you something today. Real love, real care, real loyalty. They don't hide behind excuses. They show up, they speak up, they protect, they support. They don't let you question your worth. And if someone keeps making you feel like a burden, it's not the misunderstanding. It's the truth trying to wake you up. So here are 8 toxic behaviors that scream the loudest. They don't really care. Number 1, they only reach out when they need something. There's a special kind of pain that comes when someone you once held close treats you like an option, like a vending machine, like a lifeline. Only when their world is falling apart. You know the pattern. They vanish when the sun is shining, but show up when their skies turn gray. You sit there holding on to memories, hoping they'll come back because they miss you, but they don't. They come back because they need you. And the truth is, that kind of relationship isn't built on care. It's built on convenience, on utility, on what you can give them, not who you are to them. And you know it deep down. But your heart, it keeps making excuses because it's hard to accept that someone you love only sees you as a tool, not a treasure. They message you out of the blue, and for a second, your heart lights up. They remembered me, you think. But 5 minutes into the conversation, you realize they didn't come back to check on your soul. They came back for a favor, a connection, money, advice, a distraction. It's a pattern wrapped in a false apology. I've just been so busy lately. But when it's time to celebrate your wins, they're nowhere. When you're hurting, they're silent. When you need someone, truly need someone, they disappear like mist. And still you answer. Still you give. Still you hope. Because you're built different. Because you love deep. Because you see the best in people, even when they keep giving you the worst. But let's stop pretending. Let's stop calling selfishness forgetfulness. Let's stop labeling absence as life getting in the way. Because the truth is simple. People make time for who they care about. People check in on what matters to them. And when someone constantly forgets you exist until it benefits them, that's not love. That's not friendship. That's not real. That's taking. That's draining. That's using. And every time you answer that call, hoping maybe this time it's different, a part of you dies a little. Because deep down your soul knows you're being exploited. You're being taken for granted. You're being seen as a resource, not a relationship. You ever notice how your phone rings at 2 a.m. when they're heartbroken? When their life's on fire, when they need a place to vent or someone to hold their broken pieces? Suddenly, you're the therapist. You're the safe space. You're the answer. But when you're the one drowning, when your heart is heavy, when you're questioning your worth and needing support, silence. Ghost town. Not even a how are you. They vanish like you never existed. And that hurts more than words can describe. Because it makes you feel disposable, replaceable, unseen. Like your love was just a service they could dial into. What's even harder is when they show up like nothing happened. No explanation, no apology, just a fake smile. A surface level, hey stranger, and a bold request. And you, being the heart-driven soul you are, you help. Again, you put your needs aside. Again, you open your door, your wallet, your time. Again. And every time you do, you teach them how to treat you. You teach them that it's okay to come and go, that you'll always be there, that your love has no boundaries. And slowly, your self-worth starts to erode. Because love without reciprocation turns into erosion, into exhaustion, into emptiness. You see, love isn't just about being there for others. It's also about being there for yourself, respecting your heart, guarding your peace. And sometimes love looks like letting go. of the takers, the users, the ones who only remember you when they need something. You've got to ask yourself, if you stripped away what you offer, would they still be around? If you had nothing to give but your presence, your spirit, your time, would they still call? Or would they vanish into the fog like they always do? That's your answer. That's your closure. That's your truth. It's hard to accept that some people only see your light when their world is dark, but your light is sacred. Your soul is not a public service. You weren't created to be someone's emergency escape plan. You're not a backup. You're not a second choice. And every time you let someone come and go freely from your life, you tell them that your heart is a revolving door. But it's not. It's a temple. It's a home. It's a sacred space. And not everyone deserves access, especially not those who only show up when it benefits them. Start noticing patterns instead of words. Consistency is love. Effort is care. Presence is truth. If someone disappears every time your well runs dry, that's not your person. That's a transaction. That's a one-way street. And let me tell you, one-sided relationships will leave you empty no matter how much you pour in. You can't fix people who only see your value when they're desperate. You can't heal people who only reach out when they're desperate. You can't heal people who only reach out when they're desperate. You can't heal people who only reach out when they're broken, then disappear when they feel whole. You can't build with people who treat your heart like a pit stop on their journey. Don't get me wrong. Helping people is beautiful. Being there for others is noble. But not when it becomes a cycle of self-destruction. Not when it costs your peace. Not when it's a highway of one-sided effort. You deserve people who love you even when they don't need you. People who call just to check on your soul. Who show up even when there's nothing in it for them. Who value your presence more than your help. That's real care. That's real love. That's real connection. Anything else is just survival dressed in fake intimacy. Sometimes the hardest part isn't letting go. It's admitting to yourself that someone never truly cared to begin with. That their love was selective, conditional, strategic. And that stings. Because you gave them everything. You believed in the bond. You remembered their birthdays, their stories, their dreams, and yet they forgot your name the moment you stopped giving. But that's the gift of pain. It reveals truth. It strips away illusion. It shows you who's in your life for you and who's there for what you offer. And once you see it, you can't unsee it. Letting go of these people won't be easy. You'll wrestle with guilt. You'll wonder if you're overreacting. You'll replay the good memories, forgetting that the good never outweighed the damage. But stand firm. Choose your peace over patterns. Choose your healing over history. Choose your worth over wandering hearts. Because the moment you stop answering those late night, I need you calls from people who never asked how you were doing, you start choosing yourself. And that's the kind of love that will change your life forever. You were never created to be a safety net for someone who refuses to grow. You were never built to be the emotional crutch for people who vanish when you're limping. Your kindness is rare. Your heart is gold. But even gold loses its shine when it's buried under selfishness. So rise up, clean house, let the users go. Set a new standard, because the moment you stop letting people borrow your energy without deposit, you start attracting people who love you for real. And let me tell you, that's the most powerful shift you'll ever make. Number 2, they dismiss your feelings every time you speak. Let me tell you something that people don't talk about enough. Emotional dismissal is emotional violence. It's not always loud. It doesn't always come with yelling or slamming doors. Sometimes it's quiet, slick, passive, a smirk, a rolled eye, a quick change of subject. And that's how they do it. That's how they shut you down. Every single time you try to speak your heart, they wave it off like your emotions are dramatic, like your pain is exaggerated, like you're being too sensitive. And over time, you stop talking. You stop expressing. You stop feeling safe in your own truth. You ever open your mouth to explain what hurt you and they sigh like you're annoying them? You ever start a sentence with, "It made me feel," and they cut you off with, "Here we go again"? That's not love. That's not respect. That's emotional control. That's a tactic to silence your voice and elevate their comfort. Because when someone constantly dismisses your feelings, they're not trying to understand. They're trying to dominate. They want control over the emotional narrative. They want to be the only one whose feelings matter. And you start feeling invisible. And here's the dangerous part. You start believing them. You start thinking maybe you are overreacting. Maybe you are too emotional. Maybe what you felt wasn't that serious. But that's the gaslight. That's the trap. They make you question your reality until you shrink yourself, until your truth is a whisper, until your pain feels invalid. And that is how they win. That's how they keep the power. Because if they can convince you your emotions are wrong, they never have to take responsibility for the actions that cause them. It's easy to love someone when they're quiet, when they're compliant, and when they don't hold you accountable. But the moment you start standing up for yourself, the moment you say that hurt me or that made me feel small, now you're the problem. Now you're being difficult. And that's how they flip it on you. They frame your voice as aggression, your truth as drama, your emotions as weakness. And let me tell you, that's not how love works. Real love leans in. Real love listens. Real love says, tell me more. Even if it's uncomfortable. You deserve to be heard. Not tolerated, not managed, not silenced, heard. Fully, deeply, with intention. Because your emotions are not a burden. Your voice is not a disruption. Your feelings are not too much. They are human. They are sacred. And any relationship, friend, partner, family that can't handle your truth is not a relationship worth sacrificing your mental health for. Stop shrinking. Stop apologizing for your sensitivity. Sensitivity isn't weakness, it's awareness, and the world needs more of it, not less. When someone truly cares about you, they don't get defensive when you speak your pain. They don't turn your vulnerability into an argument. They don't make you regret opening your heart. Instead, they hold space. They ask questions. They lean in, even when it stings, because connection isn't about agreement. It's about understanding. It's about saying, I may not fully get what you're feeling, but I honor that it's real to you. That's love. That's emotional safety. That's the foundation of every healthy bond. You know what emotional neglect sounds like? It sounds like you're always making things about you. Or, that's not what happened. Or worse, you're being crazy. Those are not misunderstandings. Those are dismissals. Those are attempts to erase your emotional reality. And after enough of that, you begin to internalize the message, my feelings don't matter. But listen, that is a lie they planted. And today we're pulling that lie out by the root. If someone can't sit with you in your sadness, they don't deserve your joy. If they can't hear you out when you're hurting, they haven't earned the right to your peace. You are not a robot built to suppress emotion for the comfort of others. You are a living, breathing soul, and when you speak your heart and someone rolls their eyes, leaves the room, or flips the blame back on you, that is abuse in disguise. It's not always physical. Sometimes abuse sounds like, stop being so emotional. Here's the truth. People dismiss what they fear. And if your feelings threaten their illusion of being the good guy, the victim, the blameless one, they will fight your truth like it's war. But it's not your job to dim your light so they can stay blind. It's not your job to simplify your soul just so they don't have to evolve. And you sure don't have to keep walking on emotional eggshells just to keep the peace. That ain't peace. That's emotional captivity. And you were not born to live in chains. You want to know if someone truly values you? Watch what they do when you're hurting. Watch what they say when you express a need. Pay attention to whether they seek to understand or seek to dismiss. Because when you express your heart and someone makes you feel like you're too much, what they're really saying is, I'm not equipped to handle the depth of your soul. That's not your fault. That's their limitation. That's their fear. And your spirit was never meant to be contained by shallow love. You've got to reclaim your voice. Reclaim your truth. Stop explaining your work to people committed to misunderstanding you. If you feel dismissed every time you speak, you are not in a conversation, you're in a power struggle. And sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing. Not silence from suppression, but silence from self-respect, a silence that says, if you can't honor my words, you don't get access to them. That silence, that's strength. That's peace. That's wisdom. From now on, speak boldly, speak gently, speak honestly, and if your words fall on deaf ears, walk away with your dignity intact. Let the world make space for your emotions. Let people rise to meet your honesty, and if they can't, let them go, because your voice matters, your feelings are valid, and the right people, the healed people, the loving people, will never make you feel crazy for expressing your truth. They'll lean in, they'll stay, and they'll say, thank you for telling me. Number 3, they never apologize, even when they're clearly wrong. Let me ask you something. How does it feel when someone wounds you and acts like it never happened? When they mess up, cut you deep, and instead of healing the wound, they pretend it doesn't exist. They go silent. They deflect. They gaslight. They twist the story until somehow you're the villain. You're left there, not just bleeding, but blaming yourself for the cut. And that's the kind of pain that doesn't leave bruises on the skin, but it bruises the soul. See, an apology is not about weakness. It's not about losing. It's not about bowing down. A real apology is strength. It's humility. It's respect. It's the recognition that someone's heart is more important than your pride. But when they never say, I'm sorry, even when they're dead wrong, what they're really saying is, your pain doesn't matter to me as much as protecting my ego. People who refuse to apologize will always find a way to rewrite the script. They'll say, I didn't mean it like that, or you're just too sensitive. They'll shift the blame, redirect the topic, or play the victim. Anything to avoid accountability. But don't you dare fall for it. Just because they don't own it doesn't mean it wasn't wrong. Just because they act like it didn't happen doesn't mean it didn't hurt. Your pain is still valid even when they pretend otherwise. There is power in an apology. And when it's missing, when someone never apologizes, what grows in its place is resentment. You start stacking hurt upon hurt, silence upon silence, and soon the relationship becomes one-sided. You become the one always bending, always forgiving, always covering their emotional debts with your silence. And they just take. They expect you to get over it, like your healing should happen without their help. That's not love. That's entitlement. Let me tell you something real. People who love you will apologize, not perfectly, not always immediately, but eventually they'll see your pain and come back for it. They'll say, I messed up. I didn't mean to hurt you. They'll put their ego aside because they care more about connection than being right. But the ones who never say sorry, the ones who act like they're flawless, those people, they are addicted to power. They'd rather lose you than humble themselves. You ever notice how folks like that always expect forgiveness without offering accountability? They want grace, patience, and understanding, but they give none in return. They want you to be the bigger person, the one who lets things go, the one who makes peace, but they never lift a finger to restore what they broke. And that right there is manipulation dressed up as emotional detachment. What they don't realize is that apologies are bridges. Every time someone says, I'm sorry, they lay down a plank of trust. And when those planks stack up over time, you've got a bridge strong enough to hold the weight of love. But without those apologies, you're trying to cross a river with nothing beneath your feet. And one day you fall, and they won't be there to catch you. They'll just ask why you were standing so close to the edge. Let's be clear. Nobody's perfect. We all fall short. We all mess up. But it's what we do after the mistake that defines our character. Real people, real love, real maturity. They don't hide behind pride. They don't run from the damage. They face it. They stand in the storm. They say, I was wrong. I hurt you. And I take full responsibility. That's what healing looks like. And if they can't do that, they're not ready for your heart. Sometimes the lack of an apology hurts more than the offense itself. You start asking, am I asking for too much? No, you're not. You're asking for basic human decency. You're asking for mutual respect. You're asking for someone who doesn't just love you in convenience, but loves you through correction. You deserve someone who cares about your heart, not just their image. Someone who can say, I was wrong, and mean it. Not because they're forced, but because they genuinely value you. And I know what you're thinking. What if they never apologize? What if they never acknowledge the pain? That's when you stop waiting. That's when you forgive. Not for them, but for you. You let go of the weight they refuse to carry. You drop the resentment, not because they deserve peace, but because you do. But let me be clear, forgiving them doesn't mean keeping them close. Forgiveness is release, distance is protection. Your peace cannot depend on the apology they refuse to give. You deserve closure, yes, but not at the cost of staying tethered to someone who only knows how to hurt, never how to heal. The apology you never got, it's not coming. And that's okay, because you're rising anyway, you're healing anyway. You're learning to validate your own pain, honor your own voice, and surround yourself with people who don't need to be reminded that your feelings matter. So from now on, stop explaining to people who won't listen. Stop begging for closure from people who are emotionally bankrupt. Stop waiting for an apology from someone who's shown you time and time again that their pride matters more than your heart. And start walking with your head high, your soul clean, and your spirit intact, because your healing is your power. And even when they never say the words, you get to say to yourself, I'm worth more than silence. Number 4, they sabotage your growth, then call it a joke. You ever notice how some people act funny when you start doing better? The minute you try to rise up, they start cracking jokes, throwing shade, acting like your growth is some kind of punchline. You tell them about a new goal, a new opportunity, a vision that sets your soul on fire, and they smirk. They say something slick like, look at you trying to be all deep now. Or, you really think you're going to make it? Then they laugh and call it a joke. But that wasn't no joke. That was envy in disguise. That was sabotage dressed up as sarcasm. And the truth is, those laughs weren't innocent. They were rooted in fear of your potential. Because deep down, your growth confronts them with the reality that they're not growing. And instead of being inspired by your climb, they feel exposed by your movement. See, when people are committed to staying small, your desire to grow feels like a threat. And rather than rising with you, they try to pull you back down. Not with chains, but with comments, with jabs, with passive aggression. They'll make you feel like dreaming big is ridiculous. Like bettering yourself is some kind of betrayal. But let me tell you something. Anyone who mocks your growth is not your friend. Anyone who feels the need to diminish your light just because it's starting to shine a little brighter, that's not love. That's sabotage. And when they call it a joke, that's just their way of dodging accountability. It's easier for them to say, I was just playing, than to admit they're intimidated by who you're becoming. This world is full of folks who will applaud your mediocrity but mock your progress. They're cool with you being stuck, lost, or broken because that's comfortable for them. That's the version of you they can manage. But the moment you get clear, the moment you heal, the moment you decide you want more, they panic, they get sarcastic, they get dismissive. Why? Because now you're holding up a mirror. And when they see you chasing purpose, it reminds them of their own procrastination. When they see you investing in yourself, it highlights how long they've stayed stagnant. And instead of doing the inner work, instead of rising with you, they'd rather try and clip your wings. And when you call them out, they'll say, you can't even take a joke. But don't get it twisted. That wasn't humor. That was hostility with a laugh track. And here's what makes it even harder. They liked you better when you were broken. Most of their best and only children, they call you everything. They included you, them for your, not their husbands. They can't be seen confessing. Not because they hate you, but because they're afraid of losing the version of you they're comfortable with. They like you when you are not the version of you they're comfortable with. They like you when you were doubtful, when you second-guessed everything, because that made them feel safe. Now that you're learning to trust yourself, now that you're starting to move in confidence and speak with clarity, they don't know what to do with that version of you. So they try to reduce it with sarcasm, mockery, little digs masked as jokes. Let me break it to you straight. There's nothing funny about someone trying to undermine your future. There's nothing lighthearted about someone planting seeds of doubt in your mind just because they're uncomfortable with your elevation. That's not banter. That's spiritual sabotage. And if you're not careful, You'll start believing the lie. You'll start shrinking again, laughing with them, downplaying your vision so they feel more at ease. And before you know it, you're stuck. Not because you're not capable, but because you let their sarcasm become your ceiling. You let their discomfort dictate your destiny. And I came to tell you that stops today. You are not responsible for how your growth makes others feel. Your success is not a betrayal. Your healing is not an insult. You're not doing something wrong just because you're doing something different. You've got to give yourself permission to outgrow people, even the ones you love, especially the ones who laugh when you try to rise. Because here's the truth. The people meant for you will celebrate your growth, not mock it. They'll challenge you, yes, but they won't belittle you. They won't throw shade and call it humor. They'll push you forward, not pull you back. So if someone's idea of comedy is making fun of your calling, understand that ain't a friend. That's a barrier. When someone jokes about your ambition, what they're really trying to do is plant doubt. And if you're not rooted in truth, in self-worth, in faith, that doubt will grow. It'll start whispering lies like maybe they're right, maybe I'm not good enough, maybe I am being unrealistic. But let me remind you, the enemy of progress is not failure. It's fear disguised as familiarity. It's that little voice, often from familiar faces, that says, don't go too far. Don't change too much. Don't get ahead of yourself. But that voice, it doesn't speak truth. It speaks insecurity. Their insecurity, not yours. Sometimes you've got to get real still and ask yourself, who in my circle claps when I win? And who chuckles when I try? Because the people who really believe in you, they don't joke about your grind. They don't downplay your goals. They look you in the eye and say, go for it. I see greatness in you. They may not understand your vision, but they won't mock it. And if the people around you can't give you that, then you need new soil. Because you can't grow in a garden where people keep stepping on your roots. Listen to me. Don't let their sarcasm break your spirit. Let it build your resolve. Every time they laugh, let it fuel your fire. Let their mockery become your motivation. Let their disbelief become your drive. Because the same folks who laughed at the seed will be speechless at the harvest. They won't be laughing when you bloom. And you don't owe them an explanation. You don't have to defend your dreams to people who've already decided to doubt you. Keep moving, keep growing, keep becoming. And if they can't handle it, that's on them. Your purpose was never a punchline. Now hear this, some people use jokes because they don't have the courage to say how they really feel. They're threatened, they're jealous, they're lost, but instead of facing that, they project it onto you. And they do it with a smile. But behind that smile, bitterness. Behind that chuckle, contempt. And you've got to be wise enough to see it for what it is. Stop laughing with people who are laughing at your purpose. You don't need to clap back. You don't need to curse them out. But you do need to create space, boundaries, distance. Because anyone who tries to tear you down and call it comedy is not someone who deserves front row seats in your life. In the end, you've got to choose your comfort or your calling. You can't have both. You can't stay small just to make other people feel big. You can't keep shrinking so they'll feel secure. God didn't give you that vision so you could laugh it off with people who can't see it. He gave it to you so you could build it. Live it. Become it. And anyone who tries to make a joke out of that, they don't get to come with you, because what you're building, it's sacred, it's personal, and it's powerful. Protect it. Nurture it. And above all, never let someone's joke rob you of your joy. Number 5, they constantly make you feel like you're too much. There's a kind of pain that doesn't leave bruises, doesn't scream, doesn't come with warning signs, but it sticks to your soul. It's the pain of being made to feel like your heart is too loud, your truth is too intense, your love is too big. And it don't come from enemies. It comes from the people closest to you, the ones who look at your passion and call it dramatic, the ones who hear your truth and say you're sensitive, the ones who see your confidence and call it arrogance. And you start to wonder, is something wrong with me? No. Ain't nothing wrong with you. Something's wrong with the people who keep trying to shrink you just because they don't know how to handle the fullness of who you are. See, there are people in this world who will never say, I love you, but they'll show it in how they try to control you. They'll love you in pieces. The quiet version, the agreeable version, the watered down version. But when you show up in full color, full truth, full presence, they flinch. Life is too short to spend another minimum explaining to someone how to treat you. The bare minimum should never feel like a blessing. It should be the starting point. So from this day forward, may you never beg to be chosen. May you never plead to be heard. May you never shrink yourself for temporary comfort. You are not here to survive love. You are here to thrive in it. And if that means letting go of people who can't match your energy, so be it. Let them go. Protect your peace, honor your heart, and trust that what's meant for you will never require you to betray yourself to keep it. Thank you for listening. Thank you for choosing truth over comfort. May you walk boldly into your worth and never again settle for less than you deserve. God bless you. Stay strong, stay focused, and most of all, stay true to yourself.